You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. I'm your host, Sean Werte, back again to discuss some of the John Carpenter films that we've been talking through in his canon of work so far. And we're coming towards the end ever so closely now to his films. And we're going to be discussing his 2001 feature, Ghosts of Mars, which starred Natasha Henstridge and Ice Cube and Jason Statham in the mix.
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham. So, yeah, we'll talk about that film in due course. But before we do, I should introduce my colleague who's talking with me for this podcast, and that's none other than Anthony, the Big Cheese Yee. Welcome aboard, Anthony.
Great to be back. Once again, I want to send a thank you out to all the other guys who filled in whilst I was away. I know that mustn't have been easy for you guys, but
yeah,
it's much appreciated.
You've come back. You're fully trained up. You've had rested. Some people said you came back too soon. They said no, rest a bit more, man. You don't want to exert yourself.
That was it. That was it. It was just during a production meeting. I remember in the production meeting, I zoomed in and you guys were all at the table, and I said, "I'm ready to come back, man. I'm ready to come back and do another podcast." Isn't that awesome? And you guys, I think the Zoom froze at that point because you guys were like,
yeah, I don't know what happened. It was really bizarre. Bizarre.
All of you just looked at each other.
But I was just like, we're nearly at the end of the season, mate. You should.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't mind. And you were like, nah, you take a rest. And I was like, no, I don't mind. And you were like,
he's eager.
I think all of you were like, I can't think of a good reason to say no.
Yeah. So he's back. He's back to exert some. And
back
actually, I'm glad you're back for this one as well, because it falls into your domain, being science fiction, and I can imagine that you would have a fair bit to say about it.
Notes. You
got notes. Woohoo!
Did you have notes?
No way. No.
The notes. Way. Yeah, seriously. The notes here. Right?
Settle down.
It's shit. Yes.
Mate. I can't believe you went there.
No.
It's got Ice Cube in it. What are you talking about?
Dun dun.
Yeah.
Is he in Law and Order? I think am I being unbelievably racist? Is he the one in Law and Order? He's not the one in Law and Order, is it? I only say that because I don't watch Law and Order.
No, he's
not. But I know
there's
a rapper. There's a rapper in Law and Order. That's not me being racist. I don't watch the show.
Ice-T.
Ice-T. There you go.
Yeah.
Ice-T?
Ice Cube is the guy that is in.
I don't watch the show, okay? Don't write in. Or if you do, write into Saul Murta. He's the one who said that.
Yeah, write into me. Ice Cube. Yeah. Ice Cube is a legend.
Well, what's he been in?
he was in Friday. Did you ever see Friday?
No.
So pretty much any, and I mean he was known, he's known more from his music background, obviously. He's an American rapper, NWA, and holds straight out of Compton. Ice Cube and Kevin Hart are big buddies. They go kind of way back.
Isn't it Ride Along? They're in Ride Along together.
Yeah.
Is that the movie?
So I don't know, man.
I don't watch their films. I really. I seriously don't watch their films. That's nothing more or less than that.
For me,
don't write in.
No. For me, Ice Cube is Boys in the Hood and Friday, where they were the two big films he was in. I don't know the dates on my top of my head, but the mid '90s kind of period, right? And he's iconic, and he is playing a version of himself in this film. So yeah, but I think in those movies it's a bit more. I think because it's set in his world. Do you know what I mean? So I think his performances kind of ring a bit more true. Whereas this one's a struggle. You already said from the get go it's shit.
Oh, the film is really bad.
It's a real struggle. And weirdly, when I came into this, we've just obviously spoken about vampires in our previous podcast, and I kind of watched that. I've got both movies on the companion Blu-ray. They're both on the same package, and because of that, and because these two were coming up, I watched them quite close together, and there's a lot of similarities between the two. It's kind of like Carpenter's gone, I've got an idea. What we do with vampires, we'll just set it on Mars, yeah? And there's this, obviously the virus.
Isn't it? I thought it was Precinct 13. Precinct 13 on Mars.
And it's got Precinct 13 elements in it too. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of held up in, like, and look, prior to him, as in Carpenter, agreeing to make vampires, he basically was already kind of wanting to tap out of the filmmaking industry because he said it's just not fun anymore. Right. And I think this shows in this film.
It really comes across.
I think you can tell he's just not. He's like, I'm not jiving with this. It doesn't resonate. And it's the same with us. I mean, like, there are. We were joking a little bit, but there are strong actors in this film. I mean, like, I've mentioned, I do actually, in all seriousness, I know we were joking around, but I actually really like Ice Cube. I think he's pretty good. But Natasha Henstridge, who will always be Species, doesn't matter what you say.
Species girl. Yeah. She's Species girl, big time.
Yeah. But Jason Statham, I mean, I know he's one note, right? But that one note he does really well. And
the thing is, when I saw him in this, I'm like, well, I'm never hearing this from this guy ever again because he's just such a generic character.
Yeah.
Generic thug dude. And of the lot, he's probably the one with the biggest film career.
Yeah, no, he's made such a huge film career out of this. Like, he's, like, all hats off to him. Like, yeah, he's done an amazing job at playing the same character.
And Pam Grier's in this. And Pam Grier's fantastic. Underused, but yeah. Joanna Cassidy,
so underused in this film. Like, it's. But she's like, when she's in it, she's great. Like, her character is really good. And Joanna Cassidy, as you said,
big fan of hers
too. Yeah, from Blade Runner.
Claire Duvall.
And Claire Duvall, who I always had a bit of a crush on Claire Duvall.
When I saw her, I was like, when I saw this again, I'm like, that's Saul type. When I used to work with you at the place we used to work at, and we both were single.
Yeah,
can't underline that enough. And we both used to like, she's hot. Yeah, you have a certain type. Mind you, I do too. But yeah, I said, you go for a Claire Duvall type.
I still have a lot of time for her, even in a shit film like this. I
just fast forwarding to the bit. When did you first see it? Actually, when did you first see it?
When I first saw it, I had one of these weird things where coming into this, and maybe I was just me trying to blank my memory of this film, but I wasn't 100% sure that I'd seen it.
Oh, really?
And then when I started watching it, I went, oh, yeah, no, I've seen this. I was like, I've seen this a couple of times. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, but my memory of when I first watched it, so we're talking about 2001, definitely would have seen this in the cinema, 100%.
I did.
This was by the point where I was actively going, as I was pretty much seeing 1 or 2 movies a week. So, it was definitely in amongst that kind of circuit of time where I was like, I'll give this a go. Interestingly, though, I never realized at the time I went to see it that it was a John Carpenter film, and I didn't have that association with it, even though I was a huge John Carpenter fan at that point. So that's interesting. I just went in because I was like, science fiction film, Ice Cube's in it, I'll watch it. Purely that was my draw card. Yeah.
I was trying to ask a girl out that I liked at the time, and she couldn't make it, so I said, "Oh fuck it, I'll go see it." And it was like a night session during a work day or a school night, and it was at there's something Roxy Cinema in Parramatta, which doesn't exist anymore. The building's still there, and it's abandoned, but it's an old-fashioned cinema type theater. I walked in, it's awesome. I walked in, I was the only one there. It was the first time I've ever walked into a theater, like a 7:00 showing. The whole thing is completely empty. And I decided to count the seats forward and back so I could sit dead center in the theater because I had time to do that. And I sat there thinking, is the projectorist going to turn it on? Because the projectorist is probably going, well, there's nobody here, so what's the point? But he did. He did. And I saw the film. And I remember thinking the film was like, okay. But yeah, looking at it recently for this podcast, my God, it's shit.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I don't know, I honestly can't remember what my reaction to it was, but it must have stuck with me because to the point. What I'm saying, why I'm saying that is that when I started, literally from like, I didn't really remember the very beginning bit with the whole intro bit, but as soon as it like picked up and was running, I was like, yeah, no, I've seen this. And I sort of get it a bit confused, title-wise, I mean, with Mission to Mars, which is a completely different film.
That's a very different film.
But it came out around the same time. Mission to Mars was 2000, right? This came out 2001. So I kind of get them both a bit mixed up.
But Mission to Mars' budget was way bigger than this. This budget's actually $8 million more than Vampires, but Vampires looks like a much bigger film. This is such a cheap film. Like it's very ill,
and you can tell it's cheap too. Like you watch it, it's one set essentially, apart from the exception of the beginning and the end. It's one location, and they keep going back into the main hub. Yeah, as well.
Oh, there's one bit where they go into this place. It's one of the buildings in the place this town that they're scoping out, and they open the door. It looks creepy, so I decided to close the door and go back out. And the fun thing I thought was like, that's a very Dungeons and Dragons thing to do. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, you clear the room. But if you think a room is a bit too creepy, you just close it and keep on going. And I'm like, but in terms of a film narrative, it made no fucking sense. Like, you set up this tension to open up the door. Nah, leave it. I was like, what? Anyway, but yeah, the opening shot is a train that goes from this big city to this outpost city, and the train's so clearly a model.
We're talking like Jerry Anderson Thunderbirds.
Yeah, type
model. Yeah, it's pretty naff.
But we
get this whole. Go on. Sorry, go on.
That's like how indoctrinated you were to special effects at the time. I remember not noticing as a kid, but. Yeah, these days when you're so used to CGI and just good model work and good CGI work, you're just like, oh my God, that looks like because the dust is not to scale and then it'll blow over at any point. It's just, it's so cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, no. You're exactly right. It's pretty woeful on that respect, and yet we're surprised that the movie didn't have much to it. The clues were there at the beginning, although like. Okay, in its defense, though, like it opens up in a very kind of Escape from New York style kind of fashion where we have the narration kind of theme saying, this is 2 years into the future and there are chickens living on Mars that are covered in jam.
Hence, it's a matriarchal society, which actually is in the narrative.
Yeah, that's right. So we do get all this kind of, which feels familiar in the sense of a Carpenter film when you relate it to, Escape. So it feels like a lot of this film is him borrowing bits of his previous movies in a big way. Like we mentioned Assault from Precinct 13. I mentioned Vampires. We're talking about Escape from New York. So when you think about that, you go already, like if you're just looking at that from the get-go, it's lost originality already. If you're just pulling off from your old bits and pieces and sticking it together with some sticky back plastic and PVA glue, you're going to get like a pretty woeful end result. So here's an interesting thing, and I did mention about Escape from New York. Apparently, there's the original, in 1996, the scripted Ghosts of Mars originally started off as a potential Snake Plissken sequel called and entitled Escape from Mars.
Okay. So you went from 1997 to Mars. Yeah.
So apparently though, Escape from LA, because of the failure of Escape from LA, that kind of fell on the wayside. And so they changed the Snake Plissken character's name to Desolation Williams, who was the Ice Cube character.
Yes.
Now, one thing I want to add to that too, like, unfortunately, you weren't able to join us on our Escape from LA discussions, but Richard Lovegrove and I.
Thanks so much for Richard for stepping in.
Yes,
really appreciate it. Really appreciate you stepping in.
So Rich and I were talking about that, and we still love the Snake Plissken character, right? And it's still an iconic character. We're talking about where would you go to next, and I said, well, it's Escape from Earth. That's like the logical thing. Like Earth's fucked, so let's
yes,
you know,
that's a good one. Oh, yeah.
Earth has become I don't know, a colony where we keep people like Donald Trump, and then everyone else is living on Mars or something.
All 70 million of his supporters.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you stay there.
What's the other 74 million go? Right, you go on. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, we're going. Keep your country and your Earth.
Yeah.
All right. Earth. And apparently there was a couple of other choices in the cast, including Michelle Yeoh, Franka Potente, and Famke Janssen were banded around to be the female choice of the role of Melanie Ballard. But they all turned it down. Interestingly, also, Courtney Love was originally cast.
Oh, she'd be an interesting choice.
But she left the project after her then boyfriend's ex-wife ran over her foot in her car while she was in training for the picture.
No fucking way.
Look, this is on
That's
Wiki,
awesome.
So take it with a pinch of salt. Natasha Henstridge replaced her by the suggestion of her then boyfriend, Liam Waite.
G'day, Liam.
Apparently also, just on this too, just because I'm on the cast stuff side of things.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jason Statham was actually originally going to play Desolation Williams, but he was replaced by Ice Cube because the producers needed some star power for the part, and he wasn't one at the time. So he ended up playing nobody. He ended up playing Jericho Butler.
Yeah, because what year this came? 2001. Jason Statham was like 2001 Daniel Craig. So, you make it makes perfect sense, but only he's got star power. So yeah, I could see him playing Desolation Williams and being really good at it.
Yeah, me too.
But the Natasha Henstridge thing, now suddenly that brings it all into focus because the one big thing about her character, Melanie Ballard, is that she's supposed to be a drug addict.
Yes.
And there's a bit, she ends up popping this pill and it makes everything sort of seem weird. She has a necklace that has snakes on it. The snakes come to life because she starts tripping balls.
Yeah.
And she starts thinking about water. So apparently that helps you be immune to this thing that's going to take you over. But that's a bit down the track. But the whole point is that she's supposed to be strung out, right?
Yeah.
Her skin is flawless. She has classic late 90s complexion. Because in terms of makeup and the way women were portrayed in Hollywood at the time, makeup was really in the 90s, like really quite nice. And the transition I always point to is Friends. For the first couple of seasons of Friends, the makeup and the way they hold their hair and everything of all the girls in Phoebe, Monica, and Rachel in the first 2 seasons of Friends is distinctly different to the grunge flavor they developed later on.
Yeah.
And I think Henstridge, her skin's flawless. She's great. And there's a point where Pam Grier's character says, "You're strung out." And at one point, Desolation Williams says, "I can smell it on you that you're a junkie." Like, how can she? She looks great. But she does. But if she's originally supposed to be played by fucking Kurt Cobain's ex, Courtney Love, I totally get it now. Yeah. Courtney Love would have played a strung out junkie. Something tells me really well.
Don't know what you mean. Don't know why you're saying that.
That explains everything now, because that was I literally wrote that in my notes. I remember thinking at the time as a kid, and I thought that again when I resaw it for this podcast. She doesn't look like a junkie, and she doesn't even behave like one.
I do have one thing to say, and I know I don't think for this one we're really going to stick too closely to the plot because there isn't one. But like the key thing, we will kind of dissect a few things along the way. But I'm just going to jump ahead on that note that you were talking about with the snakes thing on her necklace and it comes to light. Yeah. There's a point where later on when she's infected and they kick her outside, and Jason Statham's character pops a pill down her throat, so she starts to then hallucinate again, right? And while she's doing that, the weird snake thing happens on her necklace again. But I was just like, how does that work when she's not looking at it?
Seeing it, yeah.
Like, because in the first scene you see it, like she's looking at it and you go, yeah, I get it. She's tripping out and you're getting like, that's the visual effect. And that's one of the reasons why the necklace is cool, because it kind of gives you this trippy vibe. But what's the point of a necklace doing that when you can't look at it and trip out? Like, I just went, that's a bit weird. I didn't see the point of that. Anyway, that's me jumping ahead. So there's a couple of cool things that are in the mix about this coming together. So we are, as I said, we're 200 years in the future. Mars has been colonized by a high-tech company. We have the Melanie Ballard character, which is Natasha's Henstridge. She arrives by train to a Mars mining camp which has been cut off by all communication links with the company headquarters. Now, we're told this from her perspective. So she's our narrator, and she's been called in front of a group of people that look like they are in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, with this kind of group of officials.
Oh yes, that's right. She's in for court martial.
Yeah.
And these people sit around and going, "Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other." Yeah. So it's kind of like she's been sent up essentially to, and so the point is that she's narrating it. So you go, well, she's going to live. So we pick up the story that she arrives by train. We meet some of her crew, included Pamela Greer's the captain, and we have Jason Statham and Claire Duvall, and one other token douche.
Dude is going to die.
Yeah, and then there's
Guy's going to die soon.
Guy that's going to die soon, but lasts around a lot longer than you expect him to. And then we also have the two people on the train as well in the mix. So we have
played by an older dude. I'm guessing as a John Carpenter regular.
Yeah, I was going to say that we have Peter Jason as the old dude, and he has cropped up in loads of his stuff. He was in They Live.
Right, cool.
As the first initial character that Rowdy Roddy Piper's character meets as part of the group. He's the guy that gets killed off a little bit early on in that too.
Yeah.
He was also in the mind gone blank. Hold on 2 seconds. He was also in Prince of Darkness as well as the. I don't know if you're familiar with that film, Ant, because you weren't part of that discussion, but. There's two.
I want to thank Miles for sitting in for the Dailies podcast.
So I think that one was Oscar actually.
She's Oscar too for sitting in for that podcast.
Yeah. So we actually got in that film. There's two kind of scientific experts, and he's the head of the other group that we don't follow. If that makes sense. Right. So he's always like a supporting role, is my point, in a lot of his...
Yeah, there's a guy who appears in all the Chris Columbus movies, the taxi driver in Gremlins or something. But yeah, it's almost like a token good luck thing that this director finds an actor that helped him out in the first film and say, I'll keep giving you roles. So yeah. I feel he smacked me that I was that sort of guy without even knowing it. I said, I bet you that's one of those dudes for John Carpenter. Yeah. The other guy is the dude from Revenge of the Nerds. He's a Revenge of the Nerds guy. That isn't Anthony Green, yeah.
Hold on, what?
Yeah, but you hardly see his face.
That's not Anthony Green.
No, it's the other one, the other nerd.
Oh, sorry.
That guy.
Yes. I know who you mean.
Is it? Yeah, it's Robert Carradine.
Yeah, Robert Carradine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember thinking, Jesus, how far he's fallen.
Carradine,
because he was like the lead. Yeah.
Oh, family. So they're the kind of the group that arrive at the
mining town.
So they and when they get there, it feels a bit desolate, and they kind of head in to the camp, and it looks as I said, deserted, except people are in a prison, including Desolation Williams, the Ice Cube character, that's their mission. They've gone there to pick him up and transport him to undergo sentence for some kind of mischief that he's been labelled with. Ice Cube's character seems to laugh about them because they are all going to die, essentially, because of what's been going on.
In a nutshell, basically, it's such. I remember the time being a bit disconnected by it all.
Yeah, I found that this time too, as well. Like rewatch it as well. I'm just like, I'm not getting in this at all. I'm really not connecting it. Yeah.
But the whole point is, basically, it's a mining town. Basically, all the really cool story elements that would draw you, all the cool storytelling methods you would employ as a filmmaker to draw you in, he just doesn't employ.
Yeah.
There's no sense of like mystery. Like there's no sense of like going through. Basically, it's a town that should be bustling. They tell that through a dissolve.
Yeah.
and then like a dissolve of a town busting and back again. So that's a weird storytelling method. They find this the whole place is abandoned, which they don't freak out about. They go into this mess hall and there's fucking nails and blood everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, you're right, dude.
There's nails and blood everywhere, and it doesn't freak them out. Not really.
No.
And none of them go, like, they split up, and none of them goes, hey, you, like in Aliens, when they go into the base on LV-426, they find holes of acid. They find like people barricades being busted through, and they're freaking out, right? And the tension in the music, the tension in the storytelling is like, but these are like, this is a bit weird. Yeah. Okay, where's everybody? I don't know. I don't think they even say that. Like there's nobody here. Okay. They go to a jail. There's nobody in the jail. No. You think that would fucking freak you out because these are the people who have guns, right? Where is everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, so straight away, disconnected. I don't even know who they're looking at. I didn't even clock. I remember the first time I saw it, I didn't even clock that it was a mining town.
No, so that comes up a bit later on. Yeah.
It does. And when it kicks off later on, I was like, who are these people attacking them? It's the miners, which they kind of just fucking zoom all over.
Yeah.
I don't really tell you what's going on. Pam Grier's character gets a head cut off. They don't freak out. Not really.
No. Jason Statham's character when finds it goes, yeah, found her.
Yeah, she's dead.
She's dead. What do we do now?
Yeah, like with you would be a bit. Somebody's cut her head off.
Yeah.
And stuck it on a pike.
Yeah.
You would be a bit more. Like in Predator, at least, when they found those guys skinned alive, these hardened hombres were like, they just vomited and like, they're like, we got to get the fuck out of here. But again, that's the whole point. As a storyteller, you have to set up tension by having your characters be scared and sell the fear, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's short of saying this is a scary thing that we're in. You don't say that. But you have them behave in a really freaked out fashion, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why Alien Covenant, which was the one that didn't work, Alien, the one that everybody hated.
Prometheus was before
Prometheus. Prometheus. Where they fucking land on an alien world for the first time and they get the shits that the aliens aren't still there.
Yeah.
But there's evidence of alien life having been there, which for what we can gather is a first-time discovery, but they get the shits with it. They see an alien for the first time, and he takes his gloves off to pat the fucking thing, as opposed to going, this is incredible. This is our first proof of alien life. Like, what? So it's a bit like this with this entire film. It's like they're like, okay, all right, let's go into this jail cell.
So if this is coming across as a bit of a paint-by-numbers job, it must come back down to the director's choices, and if he's also coming into it thinking this is a paint by numbers job, there's no passion there, which is a shame because we're talking about a guy that clearly has made some classic gems in the past, and to kind of have this as his penultimate film is a killer. It's really hard. It
is hard to watch.
But you're right. They do. Let's just kind of cut back to when they get to the jail cell as well, because there's a few survivors that are imprisoned, and at that point they have the option. The crew have the option to take Desolation back with them, but they decide to explore the place to find out what's happened. They're like, I got it. And that's when. They find a man inside an encapsulated mining car who tells them not to open it.
Yes.
And he kills himself whilst in there. And this is the bit where Pam Grier's character kind of disappears. Yeah. And then one of the cops just sees these strange men with deep scars and heavily tattooed faces killing the remaining survivors. That's the Jason Statham character. And he realizes they need to leave the place fast, and that's when he stumbles across Pam Grier's head on a spike. Hello, Spike! Hello, Spike!
Well, actually, in the Vampire podcast, we talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer in parallel to vampires and how it borrowed a lot of imagery and ideas from vampires. Whether consciously or not, I don't know. Probably not. But how many times did the word Reavers come to you? Like Firefly, Serenity, Reavers, about people who pierce themselves and scar themselves and mutilate themselves because they're insane. Like, these were so Reavers before Reavers had come along.
Yeah.
And there's a bit when you first are introduced to the Reavers in Firefly, how the Reavers wipe out the ship, and there's one survivor who's so traumatized by it, he ends up doing it to himself, like piercing and cutting his skin, because that's the only way his brain could have coped. He could be a victim or he could join them. And that's what,
And those elements.
And one of the cops I find does this,
those elements were probably the better elements that were at play. Like when we're seeing like the effect that this thing has on humankind, that starts to get interesting, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very loose concept that
it doesn't really explore it.
Yeah. With a bit more kind of focus on it, I think we could have come up with something a bit meatier with it. Which is it just is a shame that that's what transfolds. I mean, like even like like shooting the entity or the gas, like essentially like it's the form of this kind of gas essentially that's escaped.
Yeah,
which has these kind of, I don't know what, like it'll be interesting playing it from a perspective of obviously COVID-19, post COVID-19, and if this entity like is a disease that is trying to protect its land, because essentially that's what it is. It's like it's trying. It feels like it's under attack, and when cells are under attack, they try and protect themselves, right? And this is what this is doing. It's just it comes in a gas form, and then it kills the people that it believes are a threat. Yeah, that's what we're seeing, and this is all told from Joanna Cassidy's character's point of view. She's like the person that opens the tomb, so to speak, and unleashes this disease on everyone.
But again, that's explained in a really matter-of-fact way. It doesn't really, like it's a massive archaeological find. It's incredible. Like, okay, it was told so matter-of-fact. They open up this tomb and the thing comes out. Oh, run! Like it's Are
you at least happy? Like you and I now are going to quickly kind of go on a bit of a retrospective. Are you happy that when they opened the tomb, it wasn't a piece of rope with a couple of doors leading into a broom cupboard, a la Hammer horror films? When they went into the mummy's tomb
on a hinge,
and a broom falls out. Oh shit! Anyway, at least it wasn't. At least it wasn't that.
It wasn't that.
Yes. But so a lot of this kind of stuff unfolds. What else can we talk about it other than the rest of the film is them under siege apparently, and Desolation's character has to come into his own and kind of kick butt and.
Yeah. It becomes in Precinct 13, particularly the bit where they get breached and they fall back 2 by 2, shoot. The first two people in front shoot. Yeah. They run back to reload whilst the people behind them shoot. Yeah. And as they reload, they fall back. And that's straight out of Precinct 13 where the horde of convicts come.
Yes.
And at least these zombie-type creatures are possessed. So that's the reason why they just keep charging. In Precinct 13, why the fuck will you keep charging at people with guns? They have guns, you don't. Maybe stop. You're in a narrow corridor. What are you going to do? Die, yes.
Wait, Dave, I've got a better idea. I'm going to run down this corridor at this guy. Wait, isn't that what they were just doing? No, trust me.
No. It'll work this time. It didn't work. Maybe if I try. I'll give it a go.
Get Steve to have a go. Steve will be all right. It's Steve.
Oh, fuck, no, happen again. Okay. You know what we're doing wrong, right? We're not trying with enough guys.
No.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
More guys.
They didn't like it. Okay, all right, I've got another idea. Let's get Eric. He's the fastest. Eric's really fast. Eric, okay. I want you to go really, really fast.
But just in case, put more guys behind Eric.
Yeah.
Just in case there wasn't enough guys.
Bit of a mix up. You're right. There's all this kind of stuff. What we didn't mention too is also this is prior to them having to fall back. This is where we get a lot of the guys getting killed off. There's Ice Cube's got some guys that stick with him. One of them we find out is his brother. That character gets possessed. So we lose a couple of extras at this point, including the token cop dude who's not.
That we thought we were going to die early on.
Yeah, who loses an arm. And then his head.
Yes, he does.
In a severed fashion.
They throw fucking saws, circular saws at people.
Yeah.
With lethal accuracy.
Yeah. pretty lethal.
Lethal force.
Yeah.
Lethal force, yeah.
And, so, that happens. And what was I going to say with that? Oh, so we lose a couple of those guys, only for them to go into the prison, and then you forget that, there's more guys in the prison. It felt like they kept going, we'll give you some more characters.
To kill them off.
And I'm like...
Because we're running short, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh shit, we've run out of people. I know, let's get some miners who are actually good miners. They can help out. And there's bits of that halfway through. I was just like, for fuck off. Like, who's dead? Like, who am I focused on?
And there's one guy, because I'm trying to put bombs inside cans, like little detonators inside cans, and the cans will be shrapnel.
Yeah.
And this hot female prisoner was trying to cut off the end, and one of Desolation Williams' gang is going to show her how to do it. But he sucks on this drug that makes him really high and cuts off his thumb. But I was like, the impression was he sucks on this drug quite regularly. But now is the first time he actually cuts off his thumb because he's so high. It was really dumb.
Yeah. That was,
really dumb.
And even Ice Cube just says that was fucking hilarious in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Dumb shit.
Basically.
Yeah. The woman you were saying was like the kind of the hot prisoner. Was, played by Wanda de Jesus or de Jesus. I don't know how you would pronounce her surname, but she was the fourth actress to portray Santana Andrade in NBC's soap opera Santa Barbara. I thank you very much. Yeah. But my point is that she's famous for daytime TV soaps. Okay. So, what else can we say? So they're kind of under attack. Desolation explains that the miners opened up a kind of Martian construction in the soil, which unleashed red dust, which is what I was talking about. And anyone that breathes that dust becomes violent psychopaths who start to build weapons and kill the infected. They change genetically, becoming distorted but much stronger. And there is this token dude who looks... he actually, funny enough, looks like the guy from the lead guy from the original Highlander. It's not him. It's just that's what it reminded me of. This token kind of hard nut who just has no pain threshold and will just go around kind of killing people. And then they all kind of get under attack. They basically kind of they have a plan to try and leave the prison, but that all goes wrong. They end up going back inside, and this is when she gets infected. Natasha Henstridge's character gets infected, Melanie, as well.
So they throw her outside.
She gets hooked on drugs and is okay. The
drugs, because I think of water.
Yeah,
makes you think of water. It makes you okay. So she vomits up the drug.
So the take-home knowledge or message is take drugs. Everything will be okay.
The drugs defend against zombie virus, Martian zombie virus.
Just take those pills. It's going to be all right. Just get high and merry.
There's a classic fourth Doctor Who episode about these miners on a planet, and this guy, one of them is a scientist who gets infected by some sort of creature. They put his eyes go weird, and what they did for the special effect is they put chroma key things over his eyes, so the eyes would light up whatever the chroma key was, like a really shit effect. But whenever he got sick, he drank coffee, and the coffee, it was like he became like a werewolf type character. And when he drinks coffee, the coffee brings him back to normal.
Wow, there you go.
So he has a thermos full of coffee, and of course, towards the end, he starts running out of coffee. So same thing, same principle.
Yeah, it's still a drug. It's still
a drug.
Yeah,
it's a gateway drug.
Gateway drug.
So she's fine. She's
fine. Gets back in. I can't remember at what point. Is it when they try and bust back out again to get to the train, isn't it? Because there's a point where they get to the train and the train's not there, so that's why they have.
That was the original point. The original point, they wander out as a group towards the train station, and they all just wander out with guns pointing everywhere, knowing that the horde, who you haven't been properly introduced to yet anyway, are on rooftops following them as if, come on, I dare you to do something.
Yeah.
So it's similar to Pitch Black, where they go as a group with light. And they know these creatures are just outside the perimeter of the light, ready for a break in the light to attack them.
Yeah.
But because they've got solid light, they're okay. But everything's really fucking tense because they're walking to point A to point B, which is quite a big distance, hoping that the light will hold out. In that context, it was really tense and made a lot of sense because if they're sensitive to light, they can't attack. But all it took was the light to break at some point, which is what happens, and they're fucked. Whereas here, they're like, they don't know who they're. They just walk out and they don't attack us. And they're like, there's like 1,000 of them, and there's only 10 of these guys, and they don't attack. And they get to the station, train's not here. What do we do? Oh, let's fight. And they don't do. One of them starts firing, and then just the fight's on. They all get attacked as they try to make their way back to the tower. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
It's really dumb.
And so they decide that the next plan, then, when it comes around to this, is the same plan.
The same plan. Just go back to the train. Yeah.
Come back to the train. They'll be here by now, surely. And so they kind of make their way over there, and this is where they lose a lot of their other players, including Claire Duval.
They get on the train at some point, and they say, "What happened to you?" And they're like, "Oh, we're late. Sorry."
It was just like, what?
Something happened. The train driver doesn't even ask what's going on. No, like, we got to get out of here. And then she said, Natasha Henrich's character says, "No, we got to go back and kill them." And they do, and they jump out of the train again. They grab to make a bomb or some shit. I don't know what's going on. And that's when Claire Duval loses her head. Her head gets cut off at this point, and then Jason Statham just gets mugged. Like he gets swamped.
Yeah, he gets mugged.
He gets swamped, and he doesn't. Even the camera angle they use is really flat. He just goes down. And
it would have been interesting if they'd have done, a
Vasquez.
Yeah.
I assume somebody like him would have gone out like Vasquez.
Yeah.
Which would have been a cliche at the time, I'm sure. But at the same time, he just went down. You think someone like hard nut like him would have gone, one grenade, that's for me. Yeah. Let's go.
We didn't see him die. That's what I'm saying. Didn't see him die.
That's true.
He could be back. Jason Statham on Mars.
That's it. But And so, and then the guy from the Revenge of the Nerds, he goes down because Natasha Henrich's character runs back into the train.
Yeah.
And he sticks his head out of the fucking window, like covering fire, just in time for a thing to cut his throat open. Oh, it's all really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's dead.
He's dead. And the main train driver dies the same way. He gets his limbs cut off. But he's
that's it. So they all. So it's only really left with the two, isn't it? Natasha Henrich's character and Desolation.
And Desolation's character.
And so they go off, but then the main kind of villain guys climbed onto the train as well. And
the main villain guy
and another couple of extras.
Another offsider.
Yeah.
And they fight, and Desolation fights the main villain guy.
Yeah.
She fights one of the other guys. And Desolation pushes him onto one of the carriages and disconnects the carriage, which is going to blow up because they said it to blow up or something.
That's right, yeah.
And it blows up. Yeah, it kills the main bad guy, not thinking that bad guy's loose now because that's it. They kill the host body, they infect, they're free to fly off and infect other people.
That's it.
Yeah, so think it through.
Yeah.
Because you think that's it. You would say, well, objective is not to kill these guys. We've got to contain them somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be, but they do. They kill them.
The first rule of infection is containment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not a scientist. I am a doctor. So anyway, so the plan obviously goes wrong, and so they only Melanie and Desolation are left to reach the headquarters, and they're having a big. But Desolation has to save Melanie, though, doesn't he? At the end,
because she got wounded pretty bad or something, and he had to patch her up, or her leg got cut. Yeah. Or something.
So they have a bit of a meaningful moment at the end there, and then he handcuffs her to the bed. Not in a kinky way.
Can I just say that? I mean, this is 2001. There's not even a hint of sexual tension between these two.
No.
And I think it's honestly, I think it's a race thing because it just it would be.
I reckon
back then
there.
It would have been. They just wouldn't push it. There's a huge respect thing between them.
Yes. Definitely.
But not even a hint of sexual tension. This day and age, probably it's weird if there isn't because of interracial sin, which I'm all for.
Yeah.
Love is love, baby. if we're going to go there, we're going to go there. What the fuck?
Yeah, man.
But, it's just, it's weird. It's weird. But, he handcuffs her, and that's how she gets to the beginning of the film. She turns up handcuffed to the bed. And they...
Supposedly the only survivor.
Yes. Goes to the interrogation. and the committee find her that there's no evidence of the alien you talked about from LV-426. It's very
I know.
Yeah,
I was thinking that too at the end. Yeah.
These are your words. And so she gets put into hospital at some point because she's still recovering.
Yeah.
And she hears, and then they cut to a big exterior wide shot of the city, and there's a red dust cloud coming towards the city.
That's it. And this is the one point where we see Natasha Henstridge putting clothes on.
Yes.
In a bit of a moment. I was like, and I had this moment of like, oh yeah, that's right, you're the species chick. Moment.
So the executives who are in charge of vampires were nowhere to be found on this.
No, that's it.
Which is good. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But then sure enough, Desolation Woman kicks down the door and says, "Hey, we've got some more killing to do." Yeah. Throws this gnarly silver submachine gun. And that's it. If you want to be a crook, you can join my side. She's like, you want to be a cop, you be a good cop.
Yeah.
Such a naff, such a 90s sitcom line. And again, not even a hint of sexual tension, just respect.
Just respect.
Which is good, fresh. And that's the film.
That's it. End of the credits. Yeah.
What odd decisions. So many odd decisions, which I've made a list of.
So many odd decisions. And while you are do you want to refer to your list?
Well, one of the first things is I noticed there's a lot of dissolves between shots.
Yes.
Like, if you have a character, there's one bit where when I first find Desolation Williams in his jail cell, Henstridge and Statham walk through the door, walk up to his jail cell, and they cut that walk in half by two jump dissolves, not even jump cuts, but jump dissolves. And there's a lot of dissolves in the same shot from one. Like, it's almost like, and this felt to me like the editor going, he hasn't given me any coverage. He's just given me one master shot. So I can't cut away to speed up time.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do something really funky here. So instead of jump cuts, I'll do a jump 12-frame dissolve to get my character from one end of the room to the other, because that's the only shot he's given me. That's what it feels like. Solution. It didn't feel like a conscious director's auteur idea. It really didn't, because it's a really dumb one. It's a really silly one, because all it does is gives this weirdly dreamlike quality to the whole thing.
Yes, it does.
You could say is a conscious director's choice, but the whole point is supposed to be a tense action siege. So why are you introducing a dreamlike quality to tension? So
true.
It just that was the first thing I noticed. It was like that smacked me as an editor's solution to an extreme lack of coverage. So that was a technical thing I didn't see early on. Their guns. You know me, I'm going to be the gun guy.
Ah, cool, yeah. I miss your gun chat. Yeah.
It's the 22nd century and they're using Berettas from 1986, so that was weird. Reavers, that's my other note. It's so fucking... They're so Reavers.
Yes.
Exactly like Reavers, really are. I got her that she fights well against savages. Yeah, she's a good fighter. But it always smacks to me about when you're getting attacked by a crazed mutant zombie creature that people punch them with a closed fist. Like, don't go near their face, which have needles sticking out of it. Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Just if you're gonna fight them, use them in the butt of your rifle. Krav Maga is all about that shit.
Hit them in the butt.
I've got Ice Cube, Law and Order. Again, I didn't watch the show. Okay, this is really bad. This is bad.
Why are you trying to dig that trench again? Stop.
I don't know.
Stop. I think actually both Ice Cube and Ice-T get confused. Like, people confuse them a lot.
It's the Morgan Freeman, Samuel Jackson.
If this is exactly. Yeah. If this is Ice Cube's Turkey movie, Ice-T's Turkey movie would be Tank Girl by far.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. It's this. Anyway, any other observations from you, Big Cheese?
Jason Statham, remarkably calm. Terrible dialogue and acting is another note.
Mm-hmm.
Getting locked in a cell. Someone got locked in a cell, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. That's right. They do. That's right. Yeah. So there's this idiotic scene where Desolation's gang take over take the guns off Natasha Henstridge's character and Statham's character, break out Desolation Williams from his jail cell, and they're so enthusiastic to see him again, they rush towards him, leaving Natasha Henstridge and Jason Statham to walk out of the cell and close the door on him. That is really fucking dumb. It is really fucking lazy. Like, it's like, you know what? We've got to finish this shoot by today. Let's just do that. It's just, again, what the fuck? There's a lot of vision wipes, which is very, very Star Wars.
Yeah,
again,
I noticed that. Yeah.
The guy, as an idiot who cuts his own thumb off, I put that as a note. Don't get a real sense of threat from the bad guys. You really don't. And going into a room and then backing out of it is very Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
And look, I mean, these guys are Reavers. They're absolute Reavers. But Firefly does so much a better job of making you tense and afraid of them, of what they'll do to you and what they do to themselves. It's like, there's no fucking sense of peril. So, it's a bad.
No, it's not. Yeah, it is. And there's a couple of things I was going to add to that, just in the kind of making of the film. Apparently, at one point, the production had to be shut down for a week when Henstridge fell ill due to extreme exhaustion, as she had just done 2 other films back-to-back before joining production at the last moment. I took a look at her credentials on IMDb, and in 2000, so the year before this was made, she did 6 films.
Shit me.
Yeah. That's a lot. And so it's no wonder she was exhausted when she came to kind of make Ghosts of Mars.
Well,
it's like,
can I just say, she looked good, because I didn't think she looked strung out or tired at all.
That's because she was on drugs.
There you go.
Yeah. Most of the film was also shot in a New Mexican gypsum mine, and it was using pure white gypsum as the shot. So they had to dye thousands of gallons of red food dye to recreate the red Martian landscape to make it effective. Yeah. So that's where most of the budget probably went. And
could have flown to Australia.
And yeah, exactly. And so look, we're talking about we've already come off from the outset of this saying we're not fans of the film. John Carpenter revealed after the movie's failure that he had become inspired and driven after he had made Ghosts of Mars and decided to leave Hollywood for good. However, we do know that he would come back in 2010 to make his last full feature film, The Ward. But that's a big chunk of time. There's a big gap before that would happen. So the point is that I think we've talked about this. There's a sense of lacklusterness. Like even with Vampires, he wasn't before Vampires was made. Sorry, we mentioned this in the last podcast. His enthusiasm for making films had waned, and in the sense that he said that it just wasn't fun anymore. And I feel like if he got called back to make Vampires because there was that. He's always been a lover of westerns, and that's evident in a lot of his films. And the idea of, as we said in the last podcast, of mixing that vampire mythology with Western culture was something that struck with him. So you can kind of get that, or like, well, that would be a reason to pull you back in. But if you're already there, then why go make another one when your heart's not in it? You know, and I think that I just think it shows. It's not even paint by numbers. If it was paint by numbers, sometimes you can watch those films and just go, look, I'm going to take it on face value that this is what this film's going to be. But it's not. It's like paint by numbers for somebody that is numerically dyslexic. It's just not. It just doesn't, like, you know, I don't know. It doesn't fit. So my reaction when I first watched this film way back when was probably, it was all right. Watching it again now, you really, really see the plot holes of the movie, and its weaknesses is glaringly obvious in the mix. Yeah. And so my personal opinion is, like, when I watch this now, I don't actually think I would recommend this film to anyone. No. And I find, like I said, as we were saying earlier, this is a crying shame when we're talking about somebody of Carpenter's caliber that we've come to this point. But I mean, where would you stand with it? How do you think a modern going audience would relate to this movie, do you think they'd come in and have the same reaction that we're having?
I think so.
As fans of Carpenter, But yeah,
it does. I've spoken about this analogy many times before on this podcast, but making films is like a filmmaker is like an athlete. You have your peak years, and it's that happen in between your early years and your latter years is your peak years. And I think a lot of it now, and I used to say I don't know why, but now I think I've got more of an idea as I'm getting older myself. It's to do with endurance. It's to do with stamina. Making a film is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
With all the support in the world and all luck going your way, which never happens, things always work against you, no matter how big the budget is. And sometimes bigger the budget, bigger the problems. In fact, all the time, bigger the budget, bigger the problems. And the pressure is insane. Bigger the budget, bigger the pressure.
Yeah.
And even making a $10 million film, which is a lot of money, but not a lot in feature film world, there's the same amount of pressure. And you handle that when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, right? But when you get older, you just get tired. And you're like, I'm ready to move on. I want to do more in my life. I've got to do something with my life. It can't be just about this. I'm ready to enter the latter years of my life. If you have children, your children are getting older. You just change. And I think that is a big part of it. And I would imagine if Carpenter said, look, as you're saying, I'm getting jaded with Hollywood, I could sense the fatigue permeates this film.
Yeah.
Why bust a nut to make sure the scene is exactly right when I can let's just get it done and move on, man, and whatever, man. Like, and it's not perfect. Well, I've settled for not perfect before, and it worked. I mean, just all that. I could see that flooding to you as a film storyteller. And if you're thinking of other things, which you do as artists, you can't stay static forever. You think of other things to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. He just wasn't match fit anymore, and I get that.
Yeah,
I completely get that. So, it's like an athlete. Your peak years are behind you.
Yeah.
So, and I think it just permeates the film. It doesn't even have good, bad elements enough to be a cult classic. I don't think this film.
No, that's it. Exactly. It doesn't sit in that. It just doesn't sit anywhere. It just.
Well, I think too. Also, cult classics are bad films, but you could tell the person behind it thought it was good.
Yeah.
Because their energy and their passion's behind it. And there's just no energy, momentum, or passion behind the shot choices, the direction. Like I said, I feel the jump dissolves and shots is an editor's solution to like a scene that only has one camera angle. So I've got to think of something. It's when you see it you see there's certain editors' tricks you see editors do to get around bad directing. And that to me felt like another one is a jump montage in to make action scenes more energetic. You should use all elements from, if like there's 4 takes, you use bits of all 4 takes and smash them together like a jump cut, things like that. And that's what it makes to me. So it is sad because the premise is cool.
Yeah,
but I think Martian films and zombie films. There's been a few since then. There's one. What was that film? Literally same thing. A bunch of explorers on Mars get infected by something in the ground, and they become effectively zombies.
Okay.
And I saw it twice, and I couldn't see it a third time. It's a tough. I don't know what it is about Mars, but maybe that doesn't help either.
Unless it's Total Recall, but there you go.
So Total Recall.
But like I'm just going to wrap things up, I think, because I think we've kind of have basically said that we weren't fans of the movie, probably wouldn't recommend it, and we think that modern going audience probably wouldn't connect with it either. I'm going to end on a couple of things. Carpenter apparently was trying to go with a camp approach to the film, and it was very much tongue-in-cheek from his point of view. He said it was never meant to be taken as a serious horror film, and it was meant to be just very light and fluffy. That may be, as it said, just an excuse that he's pulled out after the fact that it didn't do so well. I think to sum everything up, though, I am going to hand it over to words by Ice Cube himself, who was incredibly critical of the movie, apparently, saying, I don't like that movie. I'm a big fan of John Carpenter, and the only reason I did it was because John Carpenter directed it. But they really didn't have the money to pull the special effects off. And I think, in many ways, That's true. It's not like coupled with the fact that we're saying that it's just not a film that I don't think Carpenter was into. If you throw in the fact that it just didn't have the budget to pull off what it could have pulled off and had a bit more story to it, maybe we'd be talking about a very different response to the film. But as it is, we're left with this, which is a very sour note. So, yeah, and we're going to end on that sour note, unfortunately, as we bow out at the end of our podcast discussions. But let us know what you think of Ghosts of Mars. Like, do you think that Big Cheese and I have been a bit too critical of the movie? Does it deserve more praise than it should have? Or not? Let us know on our usual social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And let us know what you think of it. Or do you think it's a steaming pile of turd? And you echo our kind of points of view on that. Let us know. Until then, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Sean Werte. And once again, big thanks to Big Cheese, Anthony Yee, for joining me on these discussions.
See you, bye.
Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates. You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.